Hey, everybody, this is Jay Shalansky. I want to take a moment here before we started this episode of The Scoundrels to let you know that in this episode, we started a new segment called Legion in the News. This is something we used to do, and we're trying to start up again, where we basically report on the news of the week previously. With that, some of our stuff is going to be outdated, just as how things move along. So during today's episode, we're going to talk about the swoop bikes and how in Australia, the boxes that were being found in the wild and people were getting that they had a different base than what we had all previously assumed based on streams and the box art. We reached out to AMG for a comment for that report, and we didn't receive anything. Then I think it was on July 20th, they came out with a statement across their social media that it has come to our attention that there is a discrepancy with the Star Wars Legion swoop bike riders. Unfortunately, we've learned there was a miscommunication between our miniatures painting department and development department concerning the base size of the miniatures. This resulted in the swoop bikes for both the official box photography and stream being put on the incorrect base size. The bases that are included in the product are the correct bases for the unit. We apologize for the confusion this has caused and have taken steps internally to ensure this type of issue does not occur again. So as you listen to this episode in the first few minutes, we do get into this piece of news and our reactions to it. So just keep that in mind that we recorded that before, and this is the update from AMG. Thank you so much for listening to The Scoundrels. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or sign up to be a Patreon member to help us on the blog or podcasts like this. Thank you and enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Jay and Tim.
Hello.
What's up? I'm all jacked. I am all jacked now.
Yeah, we have.
Go ahead.
Why are you jacked, Jay?
Because we started early recording.
We did, yes.
Under my request, because I knew we were going to go long. We were probably going to have a long episode this week. I was like, hey, boys, we got to start early. So, like, I'm at my prime energy level right now. I just ate dinner, had a little ice cream sandwich. I'm feeling real good right now. So I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, we... for those that have been under a rock, there was the third ministravaganza. I thought it was the second. I mind melded the two that occurred in 2021 into one ministravaganza. I think I'm not the only person that made that mistake. But
yeah, I mean, as pointed out for my article, I put Electric Boogaloo on the title, and that was incorrect.
Isn't there a sequel to Electric Boogaloo?
I ran out of energy. I just put 3.
Yeah, Ministravaganza 3. Anyway, we will definitely talk about that. We have some news. We're going to actually have a real news segment.
And so I wanted to prep that a little bit. So what we're going to do is our attempt here is every week, we're going to have about a 5 to 10 minute segment at the top of the show where we're going to do it's non-editorial. We're not going to comment. We're just going to tell the news the best we can. I'm going to make it engaging, but it's just going to be the news as we know it right now. And then we're not going to comment during the news section on that particular piece of news. I just, there's a lot going on, and I feel like it's an opportunity to us to be more like a kind of a media outlet in that little section where we can just say, oh, hey, this going on, this going on, this going on. And you'll hear at the end of my spiel of the news. But, if you have news or an event you want us to report on, you can email us and at contact@thefifthtrooper.com, and we'll prioritize and decide whether we'll report on that. But
and I assume somewhere in the show we will actually comment on the news because I got some opinions.
Yeah. No, so I'm trying to separate. Because I listen, frankly, I got this idea because we've been making a lot of splashes in the Legion community, specifically on Facebook with our commentary. That's what we do. We're just commentators. none of us actually know really anything. We just say what we feel and think about stuff, right? And I think people are getting confused that we're a news outlet versus just a blog writing commentary outlet, right? And I, I don't feel like we do stuff that's clickbaity. I feel like we just talk about what we want to talk about. But what I wanted to do was kind of separate those a little bit and actually have a news like, hey, we heard this is happening. Hey, we heard this is happening. And then
Yep.
we'll comment it on it later or not, but at least we will have, in case you don't know what we're talking about, we'll at the top of every show, we'll just have a couple bullet points of what's going on in Legion.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, before we do that, let's do some housekeeping.
Okay, so I had a list of things I wanted to talk about, and I want to get through this quick because today is going to be crazy long. So basically, what we have is Stormtide is coming back out this month. We we took a couple month hiatus, and we're basically relaunching. My goal is once we ship it, which will be next week. Early next week, we're going to ship. I want to do like a live stream and kind of go through all the new stuff that's in Stormtide because we're doing it very different than what we were doing before, which I think is much more fun and lively. We have a full-time writer who's writing strictly Stormtide stuff, and he's an amazing writer, and he has all these crazy, fresh new ideas. John is really getting into his own being the game developer, and and we've put on some artists as well. So we've got all this great stuff combined. And so we're doing some really cool stuff there with like diverging storylines and stuff. It's going to be really exciting. The next thing is Gar Saxon Shield. We've closed the form for that. We said we were going to keep it open till the 17th or the 15th. I think I said the 15th. I shut that down on the 15th. Now it's me just basically shipping these out. I can tell you very confidently that I labeled another 1,000 today. They'll be going out tomorrow. And I still have a box of labels of about 3,000 more. So we've sent roughly 2,500 and we still have 3,000 more to go out. And so we're getting through that. I'm working on it. So if you didn't get in on it, sorry, man. Like I can't keep this open forever. I was open for about a month or so. So we did it. They're coming. I swear. I have your name. If you filled out the form correctly, and actually put in your information, there's a bunch was just their name. And so I was like, oh, sorry, can't follow directions. Not my problem. Skip. And so if you filled out your name, your address, no matter where you live in the world, like I've seen Belgium, I've seen South Korea, China. I mailed something to China today, Japan, Russia. There was one from Russia that was cool. England, Germany, France, Spain, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all over the United States, Canada. We've got it all. And so shipping those out. Next thing is make sure you check out all our tools. Like we talk about this all the time. We have legionhq.thefifthtrooper.com, which is our list building tool. We have a stats tool. We have the quick guide, which is the rules reference guide that we're still updating because things change all the time now. And so, we're updating that, and, our Legion stream tool. Don't forget to read our blog. We have a bunch of great articles. And then all of that is thanks to our Patreon supporters. So we have a ton of Patreon supporters. We actually just mailed out some really cool quarterly rewards to them. I don't want to say specifically, but it may have been some cards that needed to be printed in order to play. And I may have mailed those out and to our Patreon supporters. So yeah. So if you want to support the tools and the blog and the podcast and all that, check it out on Patreon, patreon.com/thefifthtrooper.
And of course, you can also support us just by buying Legion stuff on the site. So
you should do both.
Yeah.
Really. Go buy something and then go sign up. On Patreon, you don't even have to sign up for a tier. You just it could just be $1 a month, man. If you give us $1 a month, we could do more things. We could do better things. Like it allows us to hire people. It allows us to focus on stuff. we're going to be streaming a bunch of events coming up. It allows us to do that better. Like there's just a lot of stuff that the Patreon helps us with. So please join Patreon just for $1 a month. That's $12 out of your pocket a year. That's it, man. But you know what that means to Tim? That means if his beehives ever go down, we can get him a new one.
I mean, beehives are real expensive.
Just one beehive. I didn't say all of them, just one.
A portion of the beehive.
Yeah, we could get you one bee.
Yeah.
I mean, queen bees are like $60-$70 right now.
I didn't say queen. I just said one bee.
I don't think the other bees are really that relevant.
No.
Again, I didn't say it was going to be relevant. I just said I'd get him a bee.
All right. Well, how about we launch directly into our news segment?
News from the week in Legion.
Okay, so first up, AMG's ministravaganza was this past weekend, and though we'll be taking an in-depth look about the Legion reveals, the major takeaway was this next wave of releases are all AMG. Speaking of all AMG, reports are coming in from Australia that seem to be piling on the missteps that seem to be plaguing AMG as of late. It looks like that in addition to the swoop bike card misprint, making it into production, it looks as if swoop bikes are also shipping with a different base than what was on the box and in AMG stream. We have reached out to AMG for comment and have not received a response as of yet. In other news, we have several major events on their way, including Lone Star Open this weekend, Gen Con starting August 4th, and Nova starting September 2nd. If you have Legion news or events you'd like us to report on, please email us at contact@thefifthtrooper.com.
All right.
How was that? Was that good for our first one?
That was good. I think you did. You must have done your Ron Burgundy vocal exercises,
Yeah.
beforehand.
Well, I was like, I'll just swing it. I've been doing this for 4 years now, 4 years, I guess. We've been doing this for 4 years. I'll wing. I'm like, no, I'm going to write down notes. So I was definitely reading notes in that. Yeah. And so before we get to the next section, I'd like to say, if you're listening to the audio podcast, highly recommend popping over to the YouTube channel, because this next part is going to be very visual.
Yes. Before we get to, can we opine on the swoop bike thing real quick?
Okay, we're out of the news section. Go
all right.
for it. This is the commentary. What is it? The op-ed section.
Yeah, op-ed opinion piece.
Yeah.
So it seems like one of two things happened. Either they used the incorrect bases on the stream and or for the box photos, and they're actually supposed to be on the small speeder bike bases, or they shipped a bunch of boxes with the wrong bases.
Yeah.
I don't actually think it's clear which at this point. I have not personally seen the models. To me, they look like they're bark sized, the actual miniatures, which would seem to indicate that they would have trouble balancing on one of those smaller bases. But I haven't actually seen the models. So if anyone has
So actually on that post, it was a gentleman from Australia, I forgot his name. In the comment section, he actually put the model and the base next to the box picture, and it is significantly smaller, comparatively speaking. And also in that same comment stream, someone else took screenshots from AMG stream, and you could absolutely tell the difference of how big those bases were. So for sure, and we don't know if this is an isolated incident, if this is like a couple hundred boxes in Australia, because there was more than one person who said they got them. I think I counted around 5 to 8. And so we don't know if this is Australia only, because they generally get their stuff way before the rest of us do, even in how distribution works.
Depends on what it is.
I mean,
no. I mean, because of how distribution works, it all comes out of China. Australia's right there. So generally they have it in the warehouses in distribution before they even start shipping out to these, for the most part. And so, whether they caught it mid distribution and they fixed everybody else's, we don't know yet. I don't think so, because if they're supposed to be due out here in August, they've been in the States probably since June, I would assume.
Yeah, given the way supply chain works right now.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there'll be a situation like with the dewbacks where they delay the release and fix all the bases. I don't know. For those that are, for the uninitiated, something similar happened. What year was that? 2019?
Oh gosh, it was
Sounds right.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was the Adepticon we went to.
Yeah. Well,
that's
I think
where
it was
they-
Gen Con, right? The
or
early
Gen
release.
Con, Gen Con.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had some early release dewbacks in for that were sold at Gen Con, a very limited quantity. And they opened the boxes and they were like, these are ATST sized bases. Is this correct? So they ended up actually delaying the dewback release so that they could replace all the bases. And they did, in fact, replace all the bases. And I think they said basically, like, if you've already bought one, let us know and we'll mail you the correct bases.
Yeah, I had one from Gen Con. Actually, I had 3 from Gen Con. And they just had a form that you just filled out and they just shipped you the replacement base, which was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people, we had dubbed that the debacle. A lot of people were wondering what we were going to do with this one. A lot of people came up with swoopsies that I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
Mine was going to be swoop. There it is.
See, I like swoop. There it isn't.
There it isn't. Yeah. I had a, all right, this is mean. And if you're listening from AMG, I'm sorry, but I'm creative and I can't help myself. So it's going to be swoop. There it is. And it was a swoop in a dumpster just on fire with the crit to block and coming out of it, and then like the base
Overrun 2 written under it.
Yeah.
Can't combine dice pools.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they end up doing. If the answer is basically like whether this is the correct one from the first place, or they're just like, well, I guess they're on these bases now. For me, like, the larger base was kind of the only redeeming quality competitively of swoops.
Agreed.
So if indeed they're on these tiny bases, yeah, I don't know. I can't think of.
It's hard to tell what they're going to do, right? Because as far as we've seen so far, they weren't planning on doing anything about the card. That just happened. So I assume they were going to put a print and play out, right? But like that puts the onus on you, the consumer, to then print out a card, and then that becomes a whole
do that with
different
a base.
thing. Yeah. Now with the base, I mean, if you have a 3D printer, I guess you can do it. But like, okay, so I don't know. As a company, I think you have two options. You either figure out. Maybe they figured it out that we don't have any information from them. So maybe they figured out, maybe Australia was early and they were like, yeah, well, sucks for Australia. And they fixed it for everybody else. Right. Or if this is going to happen, your 2 options are do what you did with the dewbacks, either hold them all, hold the release. You got them all in your warehouses minus Australia. Hold them all in your warehouses, swap out the bases like you did with the dewbacks. Or number 2, you release them and you tell people either A, too bad, or B, put them on the right base if you have them, right? Like you put that option out there.
Yeah, like if you happen to have extra 70 millimeter bases lying around, go ahead and do that if you want.
I think the question's going to come down to the TOs and regulations of what is a legal unit when it comes to the swoop bikes.
Yeah, the other thing is the peg height. Like, especially if they're on those small bases, it seems like the tall peg, they're going to be even more difficult to balance.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because the ones on stream had short pegs on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was there was a painting stream, and someone asked in the chat, they're like, hey, are we noticed the pegs on the box art are actually tall. Like, are we allowed to clip the pegs and make them like, how'd you get the short pegs on the stream? He's like, oh yeah, you can easily clip them. And after that, there was like hold on, Dallas is not a developer, and this is not like an official ruling that says you can clip the pegs,
right?
Because clearly that has implications for line of sight and things like that.
Right. Well, you can clip them.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, we know that you can physically clip a plastic peg.
If
not the question.
If suddenly this unit can be taken on 2 different bases, and or they're like, yeah, clip your pegs. I mean, if that's the ruling they make, it's the ruling they make. But it's gonna be very interesting to model things.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that it helps that the actual like raw meat of the unit card is we'll say the jury's out on whether they're going to be competitive or not, because I actually think if indeed they are on the bigger bases, there is a use case for them as feels bad as it is for like blocking and for objectives. But yeah, who knows? Maybe this won't be a big deal. But I'll be curious to see kind of how they handle this, because this is a situation where like the base size matters and the peg height matters in competitive Legion. And if they're just like, yeah, whatever, I think that'll be telling for how they're going to view competitive play in general.
Yeah. And I think there's, something I'd like to point out. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't figured it out yet, this podcast is meant to be a competitive podcast. And so like, if we sound like we're, let me put this in quotations, complaining too much about stuff, it's not complaining. It's thinking about how this is actually going to work in a competitive environment, right? Which is what keeps this game going, is the competitive environment. So if you're at home with your son or your wife or your husband or whatever, whoever you're playing with at home, your brother, sister, father, whatever, and you don't care about any of this, cool, man. Like, you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
like
you do.
Yeah, we're cool with that. Like, clearly Stormtide is a very casual thing that we do, and we love casual, we do, but this very specifically is a competitive podcast. And so what we need to do is comment and talk about implications to the competitive scene, because like it or not, even though competitive scene is a small portion of the audience, it's what keeps games alive and what keeps them going, games like this. And so, we need to make sure that people stay in the competitive and enjoy playing competitive so that the game stays lively and it keeps going.
It's the public face of the game.
Yeah.
And I think it's also bigger than most people realize. But we have ministravaganza to talk about. We could we could go on a whole tangent about that.
All right. So I'm gonna Tim, not we. Tim built a great little presentation for us to follow through. So if you are listening on the audio version of the podcast, I highly recommend you head over to YouTube. Can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So that'll show up for everybody else. I'm just getting notes and everything situated and control here. All right. So so Tim made this awesome presentation for us to go through. Thank you, Tim. You're the best. And this is going to be a very visual companion to what we're about to talk about. So I think you'll be fine on audio, but it's better on video. Actually, just come over to the YouTube and subscribe and then leave. That's really all I need you to do.
And then if you want to still listen, that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, also, if you want to check these pictures out, they are all in my article on the blog. So
that's right.
fifthtrooper.com/blog.
Yeah.
So both a plug, and if you are on audio and want to just see the images, you can see them there too.
Yep. Perfect. All right.
Yeah. So what do we have here? What are we looking at?
I think this is the least exciting thing out of everything.
I'm a big Ahsoka fan. So this is actually, I should say, partially exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's no solid rules. We only got tidbits, but I mean, and these are also not even the finalized models. These are pre-production resin models. Like you can see, Ahsoka's lightsaber is actually a little bit bent.
Yeah.
So like it seems these are probably 3D prints of like the initial CAD models they're using to represent the minis, but they're still in-person minis. So that gives us a clue that they're, on their way.
So for those not on YouTube, we are looking at a Asajj Ventress model with her hit with folding chair pose. And Ahsoka who I was very excited about as a Republic player. Luckily, I am also a Rebel player because this is the Rebel version, and it will be the first version of Ahsoka that we get. So I'm just happy that we're getting an Ahsoka. If you told me that that I would have that they were doing an Ahsoka release opposite Ventress, I would have assumed that it was the Republic version. It's not. It is the Rebel one.
Listen, according to Lucasfilm, makes sense, right? Because they're planning on the Ahsoka TV show, which puts her in Rebels era rather than Clone Wars.
Yeah. I mean, this may not be up to them. Like a lot of stuff. I know at least with FFG is essentially like, sometimes they were mandated to do a specific unit or a theme of units based on current media.
Yeah. So I wanted to get this while we were, with Ventress. I had bought a lot of droids, not a lot of droids, but a lot of droid minis. And it came with a Ventress in it. It was a fan-made one with the fan-made card and all that. I was like, oh man, that's super cool. I wish that was real. So the fact that that she's out now is pretty amazing. That's pretty exciting for me. I don't have a ton of Clone Wars experience, but the stuff I've seen with Ventress, and listen, anything with Jedi or Sith, right? Like I'm down. Like I'd love seeing that's the whole thing that we all really love about Star Wars. I guess it's changing a little bit with Mandalorian, but like, yeah, like I've been wanting like Republic to have like a unit of just like younglings or something, or like second tier Jedi or whatever, you want to call that. So,
and for all the Republic players, they did say that there will be a Republic commander in this wave. They did not say who it was. But we are getting a unit of some kind. They were extremely non-specific. It could be like Commander Cody, it could be Mace Windu, I don't know. But there is a thing, and they did say, of course, that they have Republic Ahsoka versions planned. They mentioned 3, I think. Commander, Padawan, and Citizen, which I assume is like season 7 Ahsoka before she takes command of the 223. But so Republic is getting Ahsoka at some point, but Rebels will be getting this one. So Fulcrum Ahsoka. This is so actually for some slightly my understanding is this is the Star Wars Rebels show version of Ahsoka, not necessarily the like post Return of the Jedi Ahsoka show version of Ahsoka. You guys can correct me if that impression is wrong.
That's my impression as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess what I was saying was it just made sense, right? She's in, spoiler alert, I guess. She's in
The Mandalorian
and Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, and she has a TV show coming out. Like, this
makes total sense.
Yeah, this was a no-brainer for me. I was like, oh yeah, why wouldn't you do this? Like, of course, Lucasfilm wants this done.
Yep.
The sort of the tidbits of roles we got to is like they said Ahsoka will be focused more on protection. And Asajj, I mean, being a Sith assassin will be more, and they said murdery, so just hyper aggressive. And it also sounded like they might both get 4 command cards, with one of them each having like a quote team up card. So just some, and that's basically all the information we got for them. Oh, and then they'll both use Jerkai Mastery, which is I think it's Form 6, but it's the 2 lightsaber form.
Yeah, dual wielding. Yeah, they said they would both center around dodges.
Yes.
So
which I mean, Force user.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I assume they will have some version of deflect, as most saber users do.
Right.
So if they're good at generating dodges, they're going to be pretty good. I'm curious what Asajj's teamwork team up card is, because at least from watching the show, she's not really very good at teaming up with anybody.
Well, I mean,
except the Night Sisters.
But I mean, she was like Dooku's assassin.
Right.
Yeah.
So like the only thing that would make sense in my mind, like just sort of thinking about it for 2 seconds, would be like a Dooku team up card. But even that doesn't make a ton of sense. But we'll see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, it could be something as simple as like what is it, Luke and Chewie's, like after Chewie activates, Luke can activate, and after Luke activates, Chewie can, whatever. It could be something simple like that, right?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. All right, you guys ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
Oh boy, Death Bears. I am real excited about this. Yeah, so Ewoks, we knew they were coming, and they showed some amazing photos of these. And this is okay, miniature wise, this was everything I wanted. Like these like little goblin creatures from like fantasy Warhammer that are just insane. And I had said something to the effect of, oh, I wish they could like just take over anybody's heavy heavy like a ATST or something. But they do kind of do something chaotic, which is destroy heavy weapons, which is super interesting. I don't know how that's going to work, but I know some people were like, what, how could that be? But I mean, I don't know, force choke kind of does something similar, right? Like you can choose to pick a heavy weapon to choke with force choke, so it's not unheard of overall.
I mean, we even have precedent in the game of like weapon disrupted, like vehicle damage.
Yeah.
Right. Like if the way they want to mechanically do it is be like this Ewok puts a token on top of the heavy weapon, that just means it can't be used.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows how they were very vague on how that would actually be implemented. If it's anything like force choke, it will be a very strong ability. Usually, obviously, that is a force power, which means it's gated behind a force user. But we'll see. I mean, it's hard to speculate on it without knowing anything other than what they told us, which was very vague. Right. So it's definitely thematic for them. I mean, you see them in the Battle of Endor, like when one of them tries to steal a speeder bike, like they try and unsuccessfully use the blasters. So like it's pretty funny. I think they called it insatiable curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah. It's definitely on theme for them. And the ATST thing, I think that they said they will be able to take an ATST with Chewie in it, right?
Well, if you flip to the next slide.
Okay. Oh, we're getting ahead of myself. There you go.
So for those of you listening, it's a painting of an AT. It's like the paintings they do for their artwork. It's Wookiee outside, Chewie with his hands up on top of an ATST. Boy, it's really hard for words describing stuff right now. I'm really struggling. Boy, I'm so excited about this that I don't even care. I don't care if this is worse than anything they've put out so far. I'm playing this. I'm just doing it. I don't even care. Like, I'm just so excited about this, and I will just lose a ton of games or make it work, whatever I need to do, because this is exciting. And so my understanding, and when I say my understanding, I'm actually just reading Tim's article, so you guys could do the same thing. My understanding is that these are going to be mercenaries, and they can go in rebels or their own battle force, right? Tim, was that basically the gist?
Sounds like it is. So like, it sounds like you can bring, like, so the ATST specifically sounds like it'll be battle force only.
Yep.
But then the Ewoks will be, so you can bring them as a couple mercenary units into the regular rebels, or there's going to be the Endor battle force. I couldn't figure out if there's actually going to be like Ewok battle force. It'll be Ewoks only, because it sounds like the Endor battle force is going to like, it'll include like the main characters, like all the rebels who are on Endor, right? Yeah. You got rebel commandos, main characters. That's where the ATST with Chewie in it comes in. So I don't know. We'll see. They did say that battle force will be very anti-infantry focused, with very limited anti-armor things. They also said the Ewoks will have a melee option, like units themselves, melee Ewoks as well as ranged Ewoks. And then they did confirm an axe wielder heavy, and then also a trapper personnel. So bunch of things that we don't actually have much information for. But things. They also said Wicket and Logray will be named characters that you can bring.
That's cool.
Whether they're commanders or operatives, no idea. But there'll be a lot of options that we don't know much about, but it all sounds amazing.
The thing I found interesting was that the ATST may have incognito and inspire.
Yes, the only two keywords, well, insatiable curiosity, but the only two sort of known keywords that they said was in the ATST with Inspire and Incognito, which interesting.
Incognito and an ATST. I don't even know what to think about that. My first instinct was like, that seems crazy. But also it means you're like not firing with your ATST.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. I guess we'll see how it's implemented.
I mean, to me, like just gameplay wise, it sounds like first turn you're protected from long range, like AATs or airspeeders shooting at you.
Spiders.
Yeah. Which, I mean, one turn safety from all that stuff.
Yeah.
Great.
Seems pretty good. I mean, it's incognito is like a zero downside keyword. Like you can drop it when you choose, basically.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
But it depending on, okay, listen, and we're basing this information off of how the ATSTs play today, right? Depending on what weapon upgrades and stuff come with it, like it's going to be, I don't know, as someone who plays a lot of ATST, I don't know how often that's actually going to come to play. Because if I'm running an ATST, like unless there's spiders or something going on, like I need to shoot with that, like more sooner rather than later. So
yeah, we'll just have to see how it's implemented.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe it's a worse ATST because it's being piloted by Ewoks, or at least partially by Ewoks, somewhat by Chewie. But
yeah. And then while we're sort of on the topic of battle forces, the other two battle forces discussed, we didn't get any images or anything for them, would be the Imperial Remnant battle force, which is sort of like Moff Gideon, Dark Troopers, which we'll see in a second.
Yeah.
Sort of, they said a mishmash, and like it won't follow typical Imperial doctrine. So, I mean, as we saw from like the Mandalorian show, it's sort of like these random groups of Imperials who are all kind of doing guerrilla warfare in a way. And then they also talked about Tempest Force, which is the Imperials on Endor. So that's like a lot of scout troopers, stormtroopers, speeder bikes, ATSTs, that kind of stuff. And then it also sounded like they're going to have a new ATST pilot character. Well, I said character, presumably it's a pilot.
Right.
So more options are always good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Imperial Remnant thing, what I hope that they do, which would be cool. I mean, it would fall in line with what happened in the show. And we've joked about this on the podcast before, but is if they had an upgrade to the E-Web, right? Because in the Mandalorian, right, Moff Gideon's like, this is the E-Web, and like made a huge deal, and it like basically blew that building apart.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if they came out with a card, like an updated E-Web card, I'm all for it. Like, you know, they can make it just for that battle force. It doesn't even have to be something that goes in everything else.
So complete speculation and connecting dots that might not need to be connected. But when they were doing their gameplay stream, one of I think it was Pagani, was talking about, he'd asked a question about range 4 E-Webs, and he said, oh, aren't those ones that got to range 4? And then it was kind of awkward. So maybe it's in the future. This is complete speculation. Could have just been a mistake.
Would like to comment that they said a lot of things that weren't real whilst playing. Yes. And so I
asking the chat what rules on bounty.
And,
no, I've always felt E-Webs should be range 4. I think
I'd like to take a moment here. I'd like to comment on that. Here's my thing. I'm both sides. Okay. The positive angel side on my shoulder here, the little angel on my shoulder. Listen, we do Stormtide. If you ask me what X meant in box 2 of Stormtide, like we're on box 10, I won't know. Like right now, I'd have to really think hard about it because we go through a lot of stuff. So part of me does not blame them for not knowing everything in the rules like this, right? Like, because it is just, there's a lot of rules, it's complex. And when you're developing 3 to 4 different games, things are going on, you're not going to know everything. The devil on my shoulder says that you probably should have prepared for the stream though. You know, and knowing that you're bogged down with all this stuff, just brush up a little bit. You know, I don't think a lot of people were making a big deal about it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. They were excited. They were doing a stream. You know, it's fine. Everything's fine, everybody. I just, you know, I don't know, maybe just if you're going to take some units, just brush up on those units and make sure you're not saying something crazy. That's all.
Yeah, like if it's a perception thing, just do like a short practice game the day before or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what these guys' schedules are like,
right?
But with the exact same units you're going to use on the stream, on the same table, just take 2 hours and do it the day before, and then do the same thing over again.
I definitely have a little empathy for that, just because it's like, yeah, I get it, man. Like if you're working on 4 different games, right? Like,
yeah,
dude, I don't know what anything does. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can't even play other games. I'm only focused on Legion because if I can't remember any of these other rules. So, I get it. So I just want to say that I have 2 sides to that, but that's kind of my take on it, is give them some slack, and hopefully the next one they'll brush up a little bit more. That's all we can ask.
Yep. All right. Back to while we're on the subject of Imperial Remnant Battle Force, should we advance the There we go. So thematically, I love these dudes. As soon as I saw them these are Dark Troopers, by the way, for those that are not watching the YouTube.
I told you should have come over and subscribed. See, now you're sitting there, John. You're just sitting there all sad because you're listening and not watching, and you should have come over and subscribed. It's people like you, John, that really put us under on YouTube. And I just need you to come over and subscribe. All right, John? Do it right now. Stop what you're doing. Pause this audio, go over to the YouTube and subscribe.
Are you thinking of a specific John, or are you just like
you know what John? Okay. That John.
Yeah,
I'm pointing right at him. He can see me because now he's watching the YouTube. You, John, you.
All right. Anyway, these are Dark Troopers. I love these guys from when I saw them on The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I get that like Dark Trooper dubstep like soundtrack of them powering up stuck in my head whenever I see a Dark Trooper image. Like it's connected. It's hardwired into my brain. I mean, so first of all, the models are great. Whoever painted these, painting black is really difficult, and they made it look amazing. So double thumbs up to whoever that was. We also have Moff Gideon. Great pose here with the Darksaber cape dramatically flowing. So they did show us the unit card for the Dark Troopers. Actually, so of all the things that were previewed, I think this is my favorite, both thematically and also just competitively balance-wise. So they have they're 95 points for 3 dudes. So clearly that's expensive. They have 2 heavy slots, a personnel slot, which is interesting for reasons that I want to get into before we leave this slide, and a programming slot. They do not have the programmed keyword. So presumably these, whatever programs they come with, they didn't tell us what those were, but they will probably be upside. Like otherwise you just wouldn't take them because they don't have the programmed keyword. So there's nothing that requires you to fill that slot. But they have armor, full armor on a trooper unit. They're a heavy slot. So this is the first trooper unit that goes in the heavy slot. They have plotting, which is not a new keyword. Actually, this used to be on eWebs. It means you can only move once on your activation, which is a good thing because they also have unstoppable, which is essentially, there's a lot of text here, but it's basically permanent implacable. And they also have another good keyword here, unconcerned. Unit cannot benefit from cover and units cannot be repaired or restored. And then they have 2 wounds, just a range of 1 to 3 black die ranged attack, and then crushing punch, red, white in melee. The reason I like this card so much is because these keywords, particularly unstoppable and plotting, kind of like invoke the theme. These guys are almost kind of like Terminators from 40K, for those that are familiar with that. Basically like very heavily armored, very slow. But once they get to you, like, it's like a rock, basically. So great theme combination, but they also have like, what I'd like to call guardrails on here, guardrail keywords, right? Like they could have just easily not given them plotting, and then they could just move 4 times because they have permanent implacable.
Right.
This unconcerned keyword is also a great guardrail keyword because Empire has such cheap astromechs. Like these dudes have full armor They're trooper units with full armor.
Right.
So if they're benefiting from cover and able to be repaired, that's going to be just like impossible to deal with, basically. So I love that they have these kinds of keywords on here. And like these guys look really strong, but in a way that still feels interactive.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they, you're right. I like the guardrails, right? Like that's really, this feels good. And I mean, we don't know what the heavies or any of the extra stuff's going to be, but
Well,
we actually sort of do.
Well,
at least in two cases.
we have some stats, but no points.
yeah, I guess I'm sorry. I meant like points wise and stuff. Like we don't know what that stuff's going to cost. So it's like, this feels good. It doesn't feel bad at all. It feels interesting. And especially, we'll get to it, but especially the command card that they showed like adds a bonus to that a little bit. And I don't know. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the heavies they were shown, or not shown, but talked about. So they have a frag launcher, which is 2 red, 1 black die, range 1 to 2. It exhausts, has cycle, and then blast. So great all around close range weapon. Awesome. Then we have the XS IV assault cannon. It's 4 black dice, range 3, and crit 1.
That'd be 4 in Roman numerals. The XS.
I was just
XS 4.
Yes,
for the
whoops.
Yeah, and the critical is important here because they don't natively surge, so that's
a
useful weapon.
This sounds like a very like basic but awesome weapon for them.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know the points or whatever, of course, but I mean, even if you just took like that, like the assault cannon and then 3 guys, it's 7 black with critical 1.
Yeah, I put it at like 28.
It's hard to know without knowing like what they're programming.
I said 28, Kyle. Okay. Mark it in your books.
I'm not going to speculate the points because these guys already cost 95. Now, potentially, this is up to 12 wounds with full armor.
Yeah,
I mean they're basically a walking tank in like more ways than one.
Right.
Yep.
Right?
That can do objectives.
Yeah. Like,
I mean,
so if you're
really right, that's how you have to think about this. Is I love that you said that, because even if they can get up to 12 wounds, you have to think of this as a heavy slot, right? So you're comparing this to an ATST, to a AAT, to a snail tank. These are its kind of equals in that slot, right? So this is what you have to kind of equate it to. So
yeah, they're walking tanks that get the bonus of being able to do objectives, but also the negative that they lose dice as the minis die.
Yep. And they're both positive and negative. Their sight profile is going to be lower, which means they're not going to get like the crazy out of cover shots like an ATST is, but they can also hide behind terrain more easily. So and of course 12 wounds is a lot for a red save quote unquote tank. The AAT has 9 and the Saber has 9. So we'll see. I'm hoping that with heavies and whatever else you end up equipping them with, these guys come to around like 170, 160 points, but we'll see.
Yep.
I mean, I think the thing too, right, that we have to look at is, we don't know what the wording is going to be on this, the Ewoks like destroying a heavy weapon, right? So maybe they can just like pop one of them out of there. Things like force choke, you're going to be able to just put a wound on plus some other stuff. Like it doesn't seem terrible.
Yeah, actually, Anakin seems like uniquely good against these guys because you can give him force choke. He has a lightsaber that has a high pierce and impact value with surge crit. And of course, if you give him saber throw, he can fire support into them with like a Z6 or something. And then you have that big pool with, impact 3+. If it's an RPS, it would be like impact 5, surge crit, and pierce. So
the last heavy, which we don't know any stats for, is a big sword.
That's exactly what it is. It's a giant sword.
Yeah, but it actually looks a little bit like a cricket bat.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to be able to unsee that now. It's the cricket bat,
Yeah.
cricket sword.
Dude, I mean, if they're throwing a white and a red, imagine what that beating stick does. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I can't wait. I bet you it's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to make a guess here. I'm going to say 4 black.
I'm going to say it's 4 red.
Ooh.
Oof, oof. I mean, want someone to kill Jedi.
I mean, if K2 So can slap you for 4 red,
Oh,
then
yeah.
this
All right.
dark trooper with a cricket bat can.
I'm going to say 5 black. It's going to be like the dark
All right.
saber.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
The other interesting
Just
thing
saying.
about this, so like we're talking about full armor, and like most like tank options are pretty good anti-armor platforms as they are. I don't see any anti-armor tech really in this, like what we've seen so far, which means you could be spending a lot of points for like a quote tank that isn't able to deal with enemy tanks at all. So you'd still have to tech into that.
So
Okay,
So here's
okay.
a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe you have the same question, Jay. Why don't you go?
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. There's a dude with a rocket launcher in this picture.
Yeah,
Is that
it's-
supposed to be the grenade launcher thing, or is that like a separate heavy that we still don't know what it does?
Sorry, guys.
it's. I mean, who knows? Like, I also agree that I see a rocket launcher there, and I might have to take back my former statement. But yeah, we don't know.
It looks like an HH-12 to me.
It does.
Yeah.
Who knows? Because I don't
Yeah.
see like an obvious rocket launcher thing. Not rocket launcher. I don't see an obvious grenade launcher in these minis. That said, it could just be like I don't know. Their guns are just kind of naturally big and beefy looking. So it could be one of those. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they also have a personnel slot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was immediately pointed out. I'm sure that this will be somehow. I'm sure this is not going to work because it seems ridiculous. Historically, the only units that have personnel slots on them are core units across all factions. This is the first non-core unit with a personnel slot. It is also the first droid trooper unit outside of separatists with a personnel slot. So there's a couple weirdness things here. If you look at some of the Empire personnel upgrades, like the Imperial Officer and the comms tech, those are designed to go in like any Empire core unit with a personnel slot. So all they say on there, since the only units with personnel slots are core units, is Empire only. So at least right now, unless they errata it or somehow fix it, which I assume they will, you could put like 8 points, an 8-point comms tech in that extra Dark Trooper personnel slot. And the way the rules currently work, that is a 2 health, full armor body with a black dice for ranged attack and that two dice melee attack for 8 points.
Not to mention adding whatever comes addition onto that.
Yeah, throw
right?
a transponder or something on there.
Yeah.
So
or link targeting array.
Well, you link targeting array is vehicle only.
Oh, vehicle only. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
It's vehicle or emplacement trooper only.
Yeah.
so.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
But otherwise, yeah, clearly that would be a ridiculous upgrade on them. I assume that will be fixed. The even funnier part is the separatists ones, specifically the T series and the Viper droid, say droid trooper only. There's no faction restriction on there.
God.
And again, when this came out, it was just droids that had core units that were droid troopers. So this is the first droid trooper that's not a separatist unit that has a personnel slot.
Right.
So technically you could take those. I think those would probably not be as good anyway as the Empire ones, simply because those both have, for B2 reasons, those both have 1 wound printed on their card.
Yep.
And the Viper droid has a sidearm. Actually, they both have a sidearm.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a reliable one on these guys sounds pretty juicy.
It does. I feel like the T series, since it's, really either model, but the T series, especially since he becomes the unit leader, would be kind of a liability with these guys, because that means like if you can ever just hit the unit leader, I mean, this is a thing you can already
It's
do
just-
with B2s, but
yeah,
B2s
it's
are
just-
squishier, so it's less important.
Yeah.
You can get 1 wound for 2 basically if you can scope
Yeah.
the unit leader. So I would, and he's also 18 points, so he's like the most expensive one of these.
Yeah.
Will almost certainly not be possible. Ridiculous options, but yeah, I mean, reliable on these guys clearly would be good, but I don't think it's worth the, you know, if we're talking about this is something that's not going to be in the realm of possible anyway.
Yeah.
I would personally fill that slot were it legal somehow with the comms tech.
Okay. All
options.
right. This is crazy. But let's say that's all true. I like the Viper recon droid because that's something that's in Empire, right?
Yeah.
So what you do is you get these guys, you put the Viper on them, and then you put them in the back of a Gav. And then you literally just roll the Gav in, putting observe tokens on stuff, and then just shoot things on your way in, and then drop these guys off to finish it off.
Yeah. I mean, the Viper has a sidearm range too, so it doesn't really gel with their pool very well. But
yeah, well, no, because what you're doing with the tank is these guys probably wouldn't really shoot out of the tank. I mean, they may, but what you would do is you get them in, use the observe for the tank, the Gav tank, and then you drop them off and they just melee because it doesn't say sidearm melee.
no, it doesn't. That's true. Yeah, just slap them with that red white.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it will be, this melee profile is scary and certainly thematic with how when you see the Mandalorian fight them. But I feel like it will be kind of hard to get them into melee on purpose, just because they're speed 1 with plotting. Now, clearly they go twice, so like they can move forward, roughly 8 inches as 2 speed 1 moves while firing, whereas like a normal unit would only be moving speed 2, which is about 6 inches forward while firing. But generally speaking, I feel like if your opponent wants to avoid melee with these guys, they're probably going to be able to do that. I don't know. They also don't have charge or anything. So now clearly they can only move once, so that's probably irrelevant. But yeah, I don't know. You definitely can get them close to your opponent. Why don't we advance the
Yeah.
here?
Speaking of that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a teleport, basically.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so who wants to read it? So
Okay.
our audio listeners know
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going
Sorry,
on.
I keep forgetting that. Yeah. All right.
Well, that's why they need to be on YouTube subscribing
Yeah.
right now.
You have something I want, which of course is one of Moff Gideon's lines. 2 units. This card cannot be chosen during the first round. Nice little guardrail there. I love the guardrails on these guys. Lots of guardrails on the Dark Troopers.
It's a 2-pip, by the way.
Yes, it is a 2-pip. After orders have been issued, choose a friendly Imperial Dark Troopers unit that has a face-up order token. Remove that unit from the battlefield, keeping all tokens, then place it on the battlefield beyond range 2 of all enemy units. Then flip their order token face down. But of course, they have essentially implacable, so they can still... They're basically spending their first of 2 activations to teleport with this card, and then they can do whatever they want on their second one once you pull their token again. So...
yeah, I mean, basically, depending on their heavy weapons and stuff, you're getting an okay dice pool because you're still not gonna get within range for the melee unless your opponent heads right towards them. Which maybe with a Jedi they do, but it seems cool. It doesn't seem busted or broken or anything. It seems fine.
It seems neat.
Yeah, it seems good.
Yeah, I mean, this is I feel like the best use of this card is basically to make it so that your opponent can't just put like a strike team or a naked unit or something on their back objective.
Oh.
Yep.
I mean, think of this on Intercept or KP.
Oh yeah.
Near the end of the game, you've got 2 Dark Troopers still on the table, and it's like, KP especially is kind of all about counting unit leaders at the end of the game. And this really changes your calculus for how you're going to plan to claim your home point.
Right.
And same for Intercept. I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah.
list construction looks like for these guys. But
I also kind of like it for like recover, right?
Yeah.
Because most time when you recover, you're just running backwards into a corner
Yep.
to hold on to it. And so you drop these guys range 2, and now they can start shooting and moving in to disrupt that.
There is also stipulation that you keeping all tokens. That probably also means objective tokens.
Yep. Recover.
So yeah, like if you recover or hostage or anything that you're just trying to grab something, you like pick it up and then next turn play this and put them off the corner somewhere or in your army or whatever and get them away safely.
Well, or okay. So your first action with them, right? The first time, I guess you have to. Well, no. Could you do it? So could you? You can't order them and then do it. So I was gonna say you could like somehow get them a standby, and then just drop them range 2 from something, and as soon as it moves or performs an action, you then.
Well, I mean, in doubles play, you could deploy the garrison on them and then drop them.
I do think deploy the garrison on these guys in general is
yes
potentially kind of amazing because they have a dash for suppression, which means they cannot gain suppression.
Right.
So that is if you give these guys a standby from deploy the garrison, that is an unstrippable standby.
Unless they get force pushed.
Right. That would be the only way to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know. We'll see. That could be middle management 2.0. The original middle management was like Veers and Krennic.
That's what I got my my world's invite on. Was middle management. Yep.
Yeah. This is also the first like sort of true during mid game teleport. The only other one I could think of was Cad Bane. But that one like is you have to like use the card like if you want to actually use it as teleport, you got to put the token down.
Yeah,
like,
it's much more difficult to use.
It's much more difficult, yeah. Whereas this one can be pretty reactionary because you can just play the card and immediately teleport them like at the start of a turn. So
yeah, seems good.
I like everything about these that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
I like the slot they're in. I think the price is reasonable. Everything seems good about
They
it.
definitely nailed the theme.
Yeah,
with these guys.
Yep.
I was curious to see how they were going to make Dark Troopers like different than Death Troopers, and they've definitely succeeded.
They're very different.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we got some more droids to kind of talk about, don't we?
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you listening, we've now switched to the IG-88 and IG-11 slides. You should come over and subscribe.
Right, someone else read these ones.
Yeah, Matt, I'm talking to you this time, Matt. Get over here and subscribe, pal. Yeah, I'll go. So we have IG-88, Notorious Assassin Droid. He is a mercenary that can go, it looks like, an Empire. He's 110 points. He has Armor 1, Arsenal 2, Bounty, Impervious, and Sharpshooter 1. He rolls red defense die. He has around about 5 health. He has a courage level of almost 2, little around 2. He surges to crit. He's got his modified DLT 20A rifle, which is a range 1 to 4 rifle with 2 black and a white. He has this modified E11 blaster, which is range 1 to 3, 1 black and 2 white. Pierce 1 and versatile. He has IG-88's Vibro Cleaver, which is a red, black, and a white with Pierce 1. He can get a slew of upgrades, including comms, training, and gear.
I don't know if I'd describe that as a slew. It's 3 upgrade
I
slots.
was thinking of the word for gear, and so I was delaying. Is what I was doing there. Yeah. And then do you want to go? You want me to just do both and then we'll
why don't you want to just hit the differences between the two? Like because they're almost the same.
Yeah.
There's really
so
there's really like 3 ways that they're different, I guess. Right.
Yeah. So I guess let's start at their weapon profiles. So IG-11, instead of the Vibro Cleaver with Pierce 1, he has Overpower, which is 4 red. The second one, the modified E11 blaster, IG11s does not have versatile, but has Pierce 1. He surges to hit instead of crit. He has programmed, so he has to equip an AI card. And he has Gunslinger. He does not have Bounty. And he does not have Arsenal 2. And yeah. And he can be in Rebels because he was the nanny too.
Yeah, the sort of offensive differences here is most like the sort of big differences. Like 88 has Arsenal 2, 11 has Gunslinger, and then 11 doesn't surge to crit, only surges to hit, which is sort of a interesting juxtaposition between those two keywords because they a lot of times are similar. It means like 88 will have easier time putting damage to on the one target, whereas 11 could use like his better weapon across multiple targets. So
yeah, it's interesting.
Yep.
The program slot is interesting. From the one card they showed us, it seems like this is going to be how they're going to kind of differentiate the Rebel version from the Empire version. Yeah. They only showed us the Rebel card, but it's nanny programming. And it is Rebel only. Basically, it allows him to take Grogu, which we'll get to. And he gets AI dodge move. It is 0 points. So people were speculating that the other one will be Empire only, and we'll give him like bounty or something like that.
I have a theory that the other one will give him bounty and surge to crit.
Okay, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Because surge hit on with Gunslinger kind of feels bad.
It does, yeah. Especially since he doesn't have Sharpshooter 2.
Exactly.
Now, that said, he does have a range 4 weapon.
Yeah.
This is the first Gunslinger unit that has more than range 2 on his base weapon profiles.
Again, very thematic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love, I think that's one of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian where he shows up and like body slams those 2 scout troopers and then just kind of rolls into that. He basically breaks the siege, right? Like he rolls in on a speeder bike. He's got his 2 arms and he's spinning around and shooting everything. Like it's very thematic for him. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, you can gunslinger that DLT 28 at range 4. Yeah. So I think overall it's slightly worse than IG-88's Arsenal because, in a pinch, Arsenal 2 is almost like Gunslinger if you need to shoot 2 separate targets, but you can also shoot the same target with 2 different weapons. So,
I wonder if the program for Empire let's say search to crit, but also self-destruct. That'd be
so
I think that's a command card.
Oh, yeah. Is that, yeah.
So yeah, we didn't get to see any of the command cards for either of these units, but we did get told about a number of them. So I can go through those.
Please
get to my thing. Okay, cards are Nova. So this is an IG-88 1 pip. Actually, first off, they have said that there's 5 command cards in this box because they both come in the same box.
Okay.
And what it seems like to me, just sort of from the spread that we've gotten, is that each of them are going to get 2 of their own command cards, and then there's going to be 1 command card that's shared, so that when you bring them, you can, like, if you bring one of them, you'll have 3 command cards, and then if you bring both of them in the same list, you'll have 5 of them to share, kind of.
Okay.
So anyway, IG-88 1 pip, focused on the kill, permanent, while attacking a unit marked as the bounty. That unit can't spend tokens, or defensive tokens. Sorry. So So yeah, if you shoot them, they can't dodge, they can't spend surges. If IG-88 would suffer wounds greater than or equal to his wound total, he is not defeated until the start of the end phase.
This is permanent, by the way.
And it's permanent.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's really good. So first of all, just thematically, I love that we finally have an effect in the game that somehow triggers based on a target being bountied. It's not just a victory condition here. It actually like gives IG-88 a bonus for attacking his bounty target, which I think is really cool. Not being able to spend any tokens. I don't know if I would have chosen that as the effect. But I love the fact of just getting a bonus for attacking a bounty target.
Yeah.
This not dying until the end phase effect is going to be interesting to see how this gets implemented, because it seems like you could basically repair him in the intervening activations, and then he wouldn't have enough wounds to die. And the Empire has pretty cheap repair droids, so it seems like that would be a thing you'd want to do anyway. I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see how this looks. I think it probably would have been cleaner if it was like a Sims effect, just because we already have a precedent for that in the game, and it does almost the same thing. But we'll have to see how it's worded. We'll have to see. I'm sure there'll be an FAQ on like what happens if you overwound him, what happens if you repair his wounds back.
Right.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. I think thematically it's really cool. I'm curious to see the exact wording on the card and how they implement it. But
yeah, I would agree with that.
The next card is IG-88 2-Pip, Independent Programming. This is another permanent card. Each time IG-88 issues himself an order, he gains 1 aim token. As well, IG-88 gains Independent Dodge 1. So basically, you get a token at the start of any turn. It's an aim if he gets an order, dodge if he doesn't get an order. So,
I dig it. Simple, effective.
Yep.
I really like command cards like this. Like, this is not complicated to implement. It's potentially very strong. Like this could be, if he has 3 command cards, this could be 3 free aim tokens, which would be great.
Yeah.
Plus independent dodged. So potentially very strong effect. Super simple. I dig it.
Yeah. It is also like these guys, I mean, especially IG-88, just like from those 2 cards alone, seems like he's going to be pretty command card hungry. Like you're going to want to bring his command cards. So just, as with most bounty hunters. Okay, and then the last card we have actual text for is IG-88 or IG-11. So this is the shared card. It's a 2-Pip, a machine made for killing. Until the end of the round, the nominated IG unit gains 1 aim token. Demoralize 3 and steady.
Yep.
Can I just comment on how much more polished this wave looks than the battle forces? There's another guardrail here. Until the end of the round, the nominated IG unit. So because you can field both of them, right? So at some point, somebody tried this, or they had the foresight to put this in there, that like this only works on the one that you order if you take both of them.
Yeah.
And these are the phrases like these and the cards that we're seeing makes me feel a lot better about the like general quality of this wave than relative to the battle forces. So just a small commentary there. But
on top of steady, great keyword for them.
Oh yeah, clearly amazing. Demoralize 3. I mean, that's cool. You have to be close to use it. I don't know how often they're going to be like at range 2 of something at the start of their turn, but even just for steady, this is an amazing card. So
I mean, IG-88 kind of feels a little bit like Bosk, where he doesn't want to be super close, but if he is like even caught in melee or close, he has some tools to deal with it. Like he has like his melee, like he has Arsenal 2, so he could like hit someone with his melee weapon while also shooting out with his pistol. So he has like 2 3-dice pools that both have Pierce on them, which seems pretty good.
Yeah.
I can see IG-11 wanting to be a little closer, just because he's got that gunslinger and he's got a range 3 Pierce weapon. So I mean, like IG-11 probably wants to exist at range 3, and then IG-88 is kind of comfortable existing anywhere from melee to range 4, but probably also wants to exist mostly in that range 3 band as well. We'll have to see what his self-destruct command card looks like.
So then the last card, we don't know anything about it except it's a self-destruct card. Seems pretty self-explanatory. It's probably like IG-11's 1-Pip, because we don't ever really hear IG-88 talk about self-destruct as far as I know, but it's a pretty core plot point for IG-11.
So, hey, he won't shut up about it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, he finally does. All right. Loving those. I mean, it's about time, right? Since bounty hunters were a thing. We've wanted IG-88, and then since Mandalorian introduced IG-11, we wanted him too. And that I think the first, Kyle, you were saying you like the further down the road scene when he's on the bike, but like my favorite scene was the first episode where he showed up and he's just like spinning and killing things in that little town. It was so good, and you're like, yeah, there it is. That's what these guys are supposed to be like.
Yep.
Can I just say that I hope the IG-11 model comes with a way to make the baby Bjorn and put Grogu in it?
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yep.
I'm sure somebody will convert that if not.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Speaking of, we can move on. So for those of you listening on audio, big mistake. This is the best slide we have. You should go to the YouTube right now and subscribe. So the next is Din Djarin and Grogu. Who wants to handle this one?
I can. So we start with Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. He's an operative, 5 health, courage 3. He can go in both, so he is a mercenary, but he can go in both Empire and Rebels. He surges to crit and surges to block with red defense dice. Comes at a base of speed 2, but we'll talk about that later. His keywords, he has Arsenal 2, Bounty, Impervious, Independent Aim 1, and Dodge 1, so you can get both of them. He also has Tactical 1, and then his weapons are in melee, he has a vibro knife, which is 2 black dice, lethal 1, and then he has a range 1 to 2 pistol, which is 2 red and a black, but it also has long shot 1, lethal 1, and versatile. So a lot of keywords that want aims. So he probably wants a lot of aims. And then he's 105 points. He can take 2 trainings, a comms upgrade, 2 gear, and an armament.
Yep.
There's
a lot going on.
There is. I really like this unit card. It's
Yep.
It's kind of, it gives you that Mando flavor. Like you got the Mando staples on here with the 5 health and
Yep.
The impervious and stuff like that. There's some other things about his kit. I like almost everything that they previewed, except for some other things about Din's kit, which we'll get to. But I love this unit card. His pistol is basically like he's kind of like a cross between Boba and Cassian. His pistol is almost a carbon copy of Cassian's pistol. He has tactical. He can get the jump with speed 3. He's got an upgrade for that. Which I guess we can get to. Do you want to do Grogu real quick? And
we can do Grogu and then we can start talking about his kit. So Grogu, he's a counterpart to Din Djarin. He's 17 points. He's 1 health and small. And then he has 2 sort of important keywords. 1 bad, 1 good. So we'll start with bad, hunted. So when Grogu is defeated, replace his mini with an unclaimed the asset objective token. Grogu may never be restored. Each trooper unit gains action claim the asset. And then at the end of the game, if an enemy unit has claimed the asset, they get a victory token.
So I don't want to say that we came up with this first, but we came up with this first. So if you guys look at the 5th Trooper event deck, we may have something exactly like this that we have had for years. Just want to throw that out there. So, not saying they took it from us, but it feels kind of like they did.
Regardless of whether that's true or not, I love this ability on here. It's very thematic for starters.
Yeah.
But I like that there's an actual potential liability for taking him given his cost and his other ability. So
so then his other ability, Latent Power. At the end of your activation, you may gain 1 suppression token to roll 1 defense die. On a surge result, choose an enemy unit at range 1 of this mini, and that unit gains 2 suppression and 2 immobilized tokens. On a blank result, remove a wound or poison token from a friendly non-droid trooper unit at range 1 of this mini.
I love that this is variable.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was super worried when I first saw this concept that he was just going to like give Din Djarin a force slot, and then you have essentially what is, I mean, it'd be boring because you just probably put like, push, or maybe they have a force heal or something in there. I love that this is like roll a dice and see what happens. I think that's great. It's very Grogu to me because he doesn't really seem to know what he's doing.
Yeah, he's incredibly powerful, but also just randomly does cool stuff.
Yeah, he's a toddler with the Force, basically. Like for anyone with a toddler, they don't really do much of anything on purpose.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, both of those abilities are hot fire. Like giving something immobilized tokens could just win you the game pretty easily, and then and removing wound tokens is great in all armies. But when you're almost by definition paired with Din, I mean, you can go with IG-11, but if you're with Din, removing wound tokens is great. The slightly weird thing about that though is you can't restore at minis with that ability.
Right.
Like, I mean, from the reminder text anyway, it just says remove a wound or poison token, so you can't like use Grogu as like a gunline healer. But I mean,
which Rebels, I like.
Yeah, it's another good guardrail. But for Rebels who like their heroes, and with the hero that he's going to be likely paired with, pretty good.
Do we know? Am I not remembering this? Do we know what small means?
Yeah,
you cannot draw range to it.
Right.
And it doesn't count for cover purposes.
Right.
Yeah. Importantly, the latent power though does call out this mini. So the latent power, like either if you're immobilizing something or you're healing yourself, the range for that is from Grogu. So where you put Grogu is a little bit important. Yep. Because you'll have to move him, then use latent power to get your random effect. And also because when he dies, or if when he dies, you put the token where he is. So there's going to be some thinking about where you want to put, like, because you can be like, because he's small, he doesn't matter for range or anything. So you can put Grogu anywhere within cohesion that you really want. But like, whether you probably want to try to keep him away from your enemy, so you probably want to put him behind Din. That probably also means you're farther away from like if you get the 1 out of 6 immobilize roll, you want to make sure he's like in range 1 of something to put that on. And so it's an interesting little thing.
Yep.
Yeah, for those that have used Iden, he functions pretty much exactly like ID10.
Yep.
Mechanically speaking, clearly the hunted and latent power bits are very different. But the small, as far as the small keyword and counterpart is concerned,
what? Yeah. So now, what if you have both Din and IG-11? They both have counterpart Grogu.
Yeah, you could put him on one
counterpart.
of them.
He's got counterpart for both of them, right?
Yeah, he's unique, so you put him on one of them.
So if one were to die, he wouldn't get counterpart to the other one.
No, because his health pool, because how counterpart works, the health pool kind of becomes shared.
Gotcha.
So like now, importantly, it also makes Din an extra health, or IG-11, right? Now you don't want him to die, so like, but I mean, if it's end of the game, it does make Din effectively 6 health before like the unit is off the table.
Yeah, probably more because you're going to roll some blanks over the course of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
all right. Yeah, just wondering.
Yeah.
All right.
So here we go.
Moving on to the insanity. All right. So for the weapons upgrade, you have Din's Amban rifle.
Amban.
Rifle. It is 3 black at melee. Immobilize 2 suppressive. For 2 actions, if you are not engaged, perform a speed 1 move. Then choose an enemy unit in line of sight. Roll 1 red attack die. If the result is a wound or a surge, which it most likely will be, chosen unit suffers 1 wound and gains 1 suppression token.
What 1 hit or crit result?
What did I say?
Wound and surge.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1 hit or crit.
Yeah, 75% chance, basically. Notably not on here, surge. And this is not an attack, so you're not using. There's lots of other reasons that's also relevant, which we'll get into, but you're not using Din's surge conversion chart because this is not an attack. So, I love the theme behind this, and I love the intent behind like a giant sniper rifle that just essentially auto wounds. I have some concerns around the fact that this is not an attack because it has a lot of weird game interactions that are not intuitive by virtue of not being an attack. For example, you can shoot into melee. And by shoot, I mean use this ability into melee because you're not actually making a ranged attack. You can do it on something inside a closed transport. There are weird things around like wound removal. Like if you shoot a strike team with this, your opponent and they're corner peeking, which for the uninitiated means that you're like hiding the non-unit leader model, and then you have the sniper model out invisible, which is the common way to use strike teams. Since this is not a ranged attack, your opponent would have to remove the hidden model. So you can basically like reverse scope a strike team by killing the hidden model and leaving the visible model out there with one wound. And then, if you do last first, you can basically just kill a strike team, even though they have one model hidden with this. There's lots of weird, like not intuitive, confusing game interactions that result from this being not an attack. I feel like I would be much more okay with this if this essentially was like, an unlimited range sniper rifle like Iden or Cassian's, except it had some, disintegrate or whatever, some additional keyword on it that basically just ignored pierce immune. And just like, basically skipped the roll defense dice step and just automatically caused the wound. I think that would have done almost the same thing without these other potentially confusing interactions. But I don't know. It's just,
it's
weird.
I don't
know. It's weird. It seems like instead of using the existing building blocks of the game, which are keywords, they kind of just like text wall vomited what they wanted this to do, and then in the process created some of these weird interactions. I don't know. Balance wise, it seems ridiculously good against force users who generally have low health pools but rely on defensive tech and being hidden in melee to survive. I've seen people be like, well, if he spends his whole game doing 4 wounds to a force user, like, is that really worth his time? And it's like, yeah. Someone that plays force users a lot, I mean, we on our force user episode we talked like even if you can do like 2 to 3 wounds to a force user on the way in and they have 2 to 3 wounds left once they get to your lines, like they're pretty effectively neutered because that's getting punched to death range. This continues to do wounds once they're in. Right, like 1 wound a turn to a force user is actually kind of a lot.
Well, and I would even say reverse, right? So let's say he wasn't doing this the whole time, and you bomb in with Luke, let's say OP Luke, and he takes some wounds on the way in, but he's effectively in the enemy lines. Well, now the whole thing that they do, which is tie up in melee so they can't be shot or wounded, that effectively is gone now. Because I've had OP Luke just killing stuff with 1 wound left.
Oh yeah.
And like nothing's going, okay, you can't touch me. Yeah, okay, boom, 1 wound. Well, now that's over, right? So
it's super common for me to end a game with a force user on 1 to 2 wounds.
Yep.
They're always like right on that knife's edge. So yeah, this is going to be really strong against force users. It'll be probably less good against like a droid army where you're just your options are like B1s, although droids clearly scepters also bring force users. Like this would be great against Dooku. But it's also, I mean, we'll have to see what the opportunity cost is here. They didn't show us the Beskar spear, which I think is going to be the other armament here. But like 10 points is not that much for something that is potentially extremely strong deterrent against the force user.
I mean, effectively, it's 10 points for 6 wounds. It doesn't matter what.
It's probably less than 6 because you still got to roll a dice. But
4.5 wounds.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Right. It's not an auto. Right.
You also like, even if you are bringing this and your plan is to use this as a sniper, you're probably not shooting it every single turn because
Yeah.
like, right, like, but I mean, if you shoot it 2 or 3 times at like, I don't know, Yoda, and then do 2 or 3 wounds to him, that's definitely worth its cost.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also like, it'll be interesting to see his spear, because like this rifle, so it's like 3 black melee immobilized 2 attack, combined with his knife gives you 5 black dice search crit with lethal 1,
And immobilized too, which is kind of amazing.
which, well, it's super important because it means like, so we'll see the command cards later, but like he has a relentless command card. You could double move in, which gives you 2 aim tokens, and like guarantee a wound to get the immobilized token on like non-immune pierce stuff. So that way you could like dive in almost like a force user, even on unactivated units, because once you're immobilized, you can't withdraw.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this is really good, even just as a melee weapon if you never use the ranged ability.
I am personally a little bit sad that like the ability is so good, because I think if this were just sort of a regular sniper, I would just take it and use it mostly as a melee club.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there are very few effects in the game that hand out immobilized tokens at all, much less 2 immobilized tokens.
Yeah.
With lethal backing it up. Like that's right. Like I don't think there are any piercing immobilized attacks right now. Well, Palp,
yeah.
but his just gets immobilized anyway.
But that's only on his command card turn, and now he'll die.
Exactly. So
I mean, I would totally just take this for the melee, and any shots that you pop off kind of on the way in are a bonus. I know it's 2 actions, but you also get a speed 1 move. So
yeah,
you know.
I mean, I also like, I think the effect, if it were like on a black die, so it were 50%, or you didn't get the speed 1 move, like take it down like 1 notch, and I think I'm way more okay with it.
Or make it a ranged attack, so
or make it
the rules actually apply to it in ways that you expect.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if their intent is they don't like, they want it to be able to go around those kind of things, like the speed 1 move is amazing because it means you can do it sort of on the approach, and you just keep advancing in, and the red attack die is just very consistent. So
yeah. I don't know. We'll see whether it ends up being a balance issue. I think it's just very uninteractive, like things that, you know, don't let your opponent spend tokens or even roll dice. I think are generally clearly like a game can have those things, right? Like we have force choke, we have force push. But those are also, they're more interactive than this in that they're very short ranged, A, and B, they're force power. So they're gated behind incredibly expensive units. But just the fact that they're range 1.
Yeah, and force choke is stopped. You can't, it's not commander or operative, right?
Exactly.
So there's even more gates to it.
Right.
Yeah. So going along with ungated, we have the Whistling Birds, which is a 3 pip. During his activation, Din Djarin gains action. Choose up to 3 enemy units at range 1 and in line of sight. For each chosen unit, roll 1 white attack die for each mini in that unit. That unit suffers 1 wound for paint, basically. You roll any paint on a white die for every mini, they suffer a wound.
This is essentially like fire 3 spray weapons with high velocity and immune pierce, or not immune pierce, high velocity and like pierce 10.
Yeah.
And also works into melee and blast. Yeah. Actually, this one I have less of a problem with, because I mean, for 2 reasons. The first is that it's range 1. Right. Actually 3 reasons. So it's range 1. So that's consistent with other sort of like auto target abilities that, you know, are at least very short ranged. The second is it's a command card, so you can only do this 1 time.
Yep.
And then, you know what? I just forgot what the third one was. Maybe it was just those 2. I'm sorry. The third is that it makes more thematic sense than like a sniper rifle shooting into melee, because these are like homing devices, right? Yeah. So, you know, these getting into melee, you know, he's practically in melee in this card art. So that makes a little more sense thematically that you'd be able to do this into melee because they're tiny little homing missiles.
This also gameplay wise is a 3 pip.
Yeah.
So likely your opponent has at least 1 activation to like back something important out of range.
Yep.
So,
or tie him up in melee or something.
Right. Yeah. So like it's if this were a 1-pip, it would it'd still be fine, but the 3-pip also gives the interactivity for the opponent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot more interactive.
Yeah, but I think it pairs nicely with the flame projector, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. So also importantly, the whistling birds aren't an attack, so you
Right.
can use them as well as attack.
Right.
Yep.
He's super dangerous at close range.
Yeah. So speaking of flame projector, so first off, this is a gear upgrade, not a weapon, which is interesting.
Yeah, and we need to be clear. So let's all remind you too. He has arsenal too, and also his pistol has versatile. So it's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. Yeah. Timing up in melee may not be the best idea.
So flame projector, it's 8 points. So it's melee to range 1, typical flamethrower kind of stuff. 1 red die with spray, so you get as many red dice as minis in the unit you're attacking. It has blast, like flamethrowers, and suppressive. So just pretty standard flamethrower, but combined with the rest of his kit is pretty good.
Now this does expend, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Important note on the card. Well, here we go. On the card, it does not have the expend icon. However, people have stated that it is an expend card.
They said on the stream specifically that it was supposed to be expend, right? Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. We have multiple cards that are misprinted now. Smoke grenades, potentially this one.
Crit to block. The double-sided shield tokens.
How do you handle that as a TO? Crit to block's an easy one to handle. That's right. Yeah. But the ones like, okay, let's say I'm a new player. I don't listen to this podcast. Let's make it easy and say I have smoke grenades. And my opponent goes, oh yeah, you gotta get rid of that now. I'm like, well, where's it say that? It's like, wow, that's the misprint. And like, well, where would I know that? Do you know what I mean? Like that seems like if this is the same thing, because okay, they're showing us this. He's coming out soon. I'm assuming it's already been in production again. So
I don't know.
Yeah, let's just to say it is. Like, how do you handle that as a TO or a judge?
I mean, if they sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just say, if these kinds of mistakes keep happening, if I were running an event, I'd be leaning towards just like print your list off.
Print it off from one of the sites, yeah.
Print off from one of the sites, and if you want to bring your cards, great. If you don't, also fine.
Yeah, I think too. You have to. I almost wonder. I was going to say someone in the community, but it's probably going to be us. If we have to like build, if we, you just build like a tournament document that just has all the cards that are, and then when people sign up for the tournament, you just send, that's part of their player kit. You'd be like, hey, here's all the real cards that we'll be using in this tournament. So before you submit your list, make sure you look at all the erratas and all the misprints and everything else. Oh, and here, and we'll be providing bark bases for all your swoop bikes if you are going to be using those.
I mean, I think this is a topic we don't have time for tonight, but there really needs to be a tournament. There needs to be a tournament doc.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. I mean, technically, we have the old FFG one, which is essentially what people are using. But
yeah.
No, I mean, personally, I don't actually think that's as big of a deal as you might think, simply because we already have quite a few errated cards from the last balance update, and people don't, at least in my experience at tournaments, people are not generally confused about them. If they're their own units, they've gone to the sites and then printed them out and they know what the errata is, and most people that go to tournaments are experienced enough to at least know to look at the list builder sites, so and at least experienced enough to have sort of a fact of errata. Know that the errata is a thing, and then some of the cards may be different. So
I guess it's still no. Do I think it's gonna be a huge deal? No. But it's still a thing that is gonna happen.
It's weird that this is a result of a printing error instead of like a balance errata.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, the last
Don't you anyway me. I'll kick you off this podcast so fast.
I'll take my PowerPoint and run. The last din thing is the jetpack. So he increases his maximum speed by 1 and gets jump 2, i.e., he becomes a standard Mandalorian speed-wise for 15 points, and it's a gear upgrade.
I mean, yeah, I think that's
good.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, he's with all this crazy stuff they had. Yeah, you have to make that like cost something, right? You can't just you can't have speed 3, jump 2, and everything else. Like,
this is appropriately costed.
Yeah.
I mean, and it also like with that 15 points, it also makes him 120, which is the same cost as Boba.
Yeah,
which makes sense.
Yep.
But like 15 points does I think most of the time you're probably putting it on him if you take him.
Yeah, I think so too.
15 points is enough that it makes you think, probably.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to bring him with his rifle to be a sniper, you probably just bring him and his sniper for 115 points.
Yeah, I don't think that's like a great use of him.
No, I don't think so either. But
yeah, you could. It gives you that option.
Yeah, because it's fully kitted out, it then becomes like 150, 160 points. Like if you sort of like throw all the toys on him.
Yeah,
which be a lot of toys, but yeah,
it's a lot of toys, which is a lot.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the spear does.
Yes,
I have right now. I have a hard time seeing, given how good the rifle is in melee, how the spear would be a better alternative. But I guess we'll see.
You know what I think they really not messed up. And I don't blame AMG for this because this is something across multiple companies at this point. But the dark saber, because we now have what 4 to 5 characters who have all had the dark saber at one point, but we're gonna have individual dark sabers for every single one. Like that seems strange.
I think it's fine.
I think thematically maybe it makes sense, but like it's just interesting, right? That you have the Sabine Wren only dark saber, the Maul only dark saber, you're gonna have the Moff Gideon only dark saber, the Din Djarin, it's just interesting, and maybe this is the best way to do it. I don't think it's bad. It's just like, so there's 30 copies of the dark saber that I have to have in order to like run all these people that are using the same weapon. And I understand it based on the lore and everything, right? It reacts differently to everybody, but it's just interesting.
Yep.
You're being real dismissive tonight, Tim. And I've had enough.
It's because of who's next. It's the one I'm very excited for.
That is a cool sculpt.
Like, man, we haven't even talked about this yet. That is a really cool sculpt.
So this is old man Boba Fett. Even though he's not that old, he's like what, 45 or something? Like 40, like
something like that, yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm 40. Like I'm like, oh, he's not that old in this. Like
older Boba.
Yeah, older.
Yeah.
Not as young.
He did spend some time in a Starlight pit. I'm sure that does some things to your body.
Yeah. The
well, I mean, okay. He's not that much older, right? Like realistically, timeline wise, it's only like what, 6 years or something?
Or 5 or 6 years.
It's not like...
Yeah. He's almost exactly 5 years older than he was in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, like we're acting like it's 30 years, but it's 5.
He is 41 years old in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, sorry. Go ahead, Tim. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say about the mini. This is, as AMG stated, this is their first like fully AMG designed mini.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I dig it. It's nice.
You can see it. I will say, as much as we comment on all the mistakes they make, one thing that is for sure, and I'm not going to comment on the ability to put them together, but the way they look, their minis are amazing. Like
they're great.
Yeah, like they've got just the profile and the the way that they stand and pose. Oh man, they're all their stuff like from Marvel Crisis Protocol is just beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. No complaints there whatsoever. I love it. I know some people don't like the tactical rocks. I love the tactical rocks.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
Yeah, and so far in my experience, they've made the tactical rocks in a way that like if you want to put your own thing under them, right? Like Maul is jumping off the piece of glass, but it's not like his foot is part of the base. So like I've seen conversions where people have him like jumping off a log or jumping off a B1 body or
I think I
right?
showed last time you were on, Tim. Like I have him jumping off a stone, right? Like I put my own stone in there. Yeah, like I like that stuff. It just makes it better. Anyways,
it's more dynamic.
Yeah, let's talk about this card.
Yeah.
Jinx. Kyle and I both trying to move this along while we're also talking. So Boba Fett, does that say the old and the wise?
The old and the wise.
Old and wise.
5 years older.
5 years older.
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so he is 120. He is rebels only. Well, not only, but he's a mercenary, and he can go in the rebels. He has jump 1, arsenal 2, impervious, independent, standby. That's so good. Sentinel, that makes it even better. Sharpshooter 1 and tactical 1. He is an operative. He rolls red defense dice, averages 5 health or so. He's got around 3 courage. He surges to crit and surges to block on defense. He is speed 2. He has Fett's EE3 carbine, which is range 1 to 3. It's 3 black, pierce 1. And he has Fett's stick, which is 3 red and 1 black. This is really not these are really blurry. 2 training and 2 gear slots for
Yes, these are the most blurry of the images, unfortunately.
I guess he's older by 5 years and so a little slower. He can't jump as high and he can't move as fast. But boy,
that's Sarlacc digestion that really ages you.
Yeah, the old and the wise.
Yeah. So jump 1 instead of 2. Clearly, he has 1 less weapon on his card.
Yep.
The big difference. Well, actually, there's actually a lot of differences between him and quote unquote, we'll call him younger Boba. I mean, his offensive profile just in general is like significantly worse.
Yep.
I don't think that's a hot take. He's also slower. But, independent standby is like potentially kind of amazing. It's interesting that I don't know. I have a hard time seeing how to consistently get value out of this. Probably the best way would be to just put him in melee, right? Because then it can't be stripped, or much less likely to be stripped because suppressive weapons are pretty rare in melee. Clearly, you could force push him, but it's a lot harder to strip a standby in melee. But he's also slower, and he doesn't have charge or anything. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like if you're just using it to like pop off free range 3 shots with his 3 dice carbine, like it's potentially a free attack or a free move, but I don't know. I feel like it feels very binary to me. There are going to be situations where this is amazing, and there are going to be situations where he just gets it stripped before he pulls token.
The standby is like once you get him in, it's his melee hedge, right? It does not feel like a ranged option because then you'll just get them shot off.
I mean, you're still forcing your opponent to make a particular decision, right? Like maybe they don't want to shoot Boba near the beginning of the round. Maybe they want to do something else.
I mean, and it's also like, like for whatever reason, I literally can't get Boba in order. Well, he gets a standby.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The other positive is, I guess, Rebels can play a lot of Mandalorians now.
They sure can.
So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, you're limited basically by your operative slots, but you can have 2 Mandalorian operatives, and then I guess it's 5, right? So it's really not. It's really not any more than Shadow Collective.
Yeah.
No,
you're still
but
limited by your
it's just
slots.
nice that Rebels can have it now, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the most Mandalorian characters, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He does not have bounty, which is also relevant.
That is true.
Also, two other important things as we go through these. They have said that he will have weapon upgrades. They did not preview what they were, but he will have gear slot weapon upgrades. And they have also said both sets of Boba's command cards, so young Boba and then these new ones that we're going to look at, are compatible with both versions of Boba.
Yeah,
So
like
So good.
anything Boba can take, both Bobas can take.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally, I say this as someone that just finally put Boba Fett together this weekend. I think this is like the supercharged young Boba Fett expansion pack.
Yep.
Anyway, let's talk about these command cards.
Yeah.
All right. So you have, which one do you want to do first? You want to do 3? You want to start at 3 and go up?
No,
one and
start
go
at
down?
1. Start
Alright.
at 1.
So you have your 1 pip, a simple man. If Boba Fett is not issued an order with this card, you can issue 1 unit. If he is not issued an order with this card, Boba Fett gains marksman this round, gains 1 aim token, and increases the range of his ranged weapon by 1 to a maximum of 5. If Boba Fett is issued an order with this card at the start of the activation phase, a unit at range 1 of Boba Fett may perform a speed 1 move.
That's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
I mean, so don't give him an order, I guess.
Well, I think honestly, the free speed 1 move is better than
Yeah.
the other effects that he would otherwise get on this card.
An out of phase move followed by like that is a 1 pip is really amazing.
Yeah, it's No Time for Sorrows, which is a great card as a 1 pip.
But yeah, like but also because it's 1 pip, like you have the opportunity to move thing and then also potentially win the roll off or just win priority to like go with that unit or go with a different unit. Or
Well, and I think there's nothing stopping you from using this on Boba himself either with the speed 1
Yep.
move, because he is at you're at range 1 of yourself.
Yep.
And it doesn't say another unit. It humorously enough, it does not even say a friendly unit.
yeah.
I don't see why you'd want to use this on an enemy unit, because unlike force push, the language here I think would seem to indicate that your opponent would get to do the move, which means you're just giving your opponent's unit a free move. Clearly this is supposed to just be friendly units, and you'd never want to, I can't think of a game situation where you'd want to give an opposing unit a free speed 1 move. But yeah, that was kind of funny. Yeah, I think you're mostly using this for the speed 1 move thing. I guess he gets his independent if you don't issue an order with this, which is nice. He gets a free aim token. The range weapon thing, I guess we'll see what his weapon upgrades are, but
Yeah.
Making his 3 dice weapon range 4. Okay, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I think the best use for that is actually making like young Boba's rockets range 3. So you can
Yes.
shoot a 5 dice attack at range 3.
Yep. Yeah, this is a lot better on young Boba, I think.
Oh yeah.
All right. His 2 pip, making his way in the galaxy. The order goes to Boba Fett. Boba Fett may not perform attack actions during his activation. At the end of his activation, Boba Fett may perform an attack with only the following weapon against each enemy unit at range 1 and in line of sight. So it's a melee range 1, 2 red and black, blast, impact 1, versatile. Yeah, it's like Grievous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Except it has blast. Grievous does not ignore cover.
Yeah.
The this is his approach card. This
Yep.
is the card you play to get him in. I also think so. One of like especially older Boba's training slots, probably tenacity,
Mhm.
because then he suddenly goes like his regular attacks 4 red and a black, and this attack will go to 3 red and a black, and suddenly you're doing some pretty solid damage in melee.
Yeah.
Also, blast on all these weapons. Older Boba actually can use that because he has sharpshooter 1, not 2.
Yep. Yeah, finally.
Finally.
The blast on the 3 pip has a 3 pip rocket has a purpose.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Speaking of 3 pips, you want to hit roll with respect?
Sure. I'm going to do it, Tim, not you.
Okay.
Not you.
Okay.
Rule with respect. That's what I'm doing right now. Boba Fett and 2 units. Well, Boba Fett has a face-up order token. When a friendly unit at range 1 and in line of sight of him makes a ranged attack, add 1 black die to one of that unit's attack pools. Yeah.
This is pretty great.
Yeah. I mean, there's no like, this is uncapped, right? There's no like face up requirement. I mean, Boba Fett's order has to be face up.
Yeah.
But clearly you're playing this on like an approach turn where you want to go last with him anyway.
Yep.
And you're just giving your entire gun line extra black dice.
Yeah, you just sit him next to Bosk and a couple snipers.
Yeah. 3 dice snipers.
Yeah.
3 dice
Like-
or 4 dice mortars.
Could be rebel snipers, 2 black and a white with surge hit. It seems pretty good.
Yeah. With Pierce and sharpshooter at range 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, throwing extra dice on a DLT. Rebel DLT captain. Yeah, like, and it's like all the above. It's not, which of these should you give the black dice to? It's it's all of them. So yeah, this is super good on both versions of Boba. I think it's really interesting on young Boba in an Empire gun line on things like mortars and snipers and shores.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super good card. Another very simple effect that is also very strong.
Yeah. And also does actually give your opponent a little bit of counterplay, like, because it has to be face up. You could it means that Boba's kind of stuck there for most of the turn, which you probably would be anyway. It also means like
pin down, yep.
Or the 501st card. Yay.
Yeah.
Knock that order off.
And then this doesn't work anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dig it. Those are all amazing on young Boba. Pretty decent on older Boba. But yeah, for me, I'm buying this and then just using all the cards on Empire Boba.
Yeah. The one of the gross combos I thought for doubles, because apparently my mind thinks about that now, is you play Cassian's 1 pip and this card at the same time. So you shoot Cassian's 1 pip, Gunslinger with 3 dice each attack.
Yeah. Or Leia's coordinated bombardment with 3 attacks with 3 dice and sharpshooter 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card sounds like a fun time for exploiting for
it has some
doubles.
amusing doubles potential. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think my favorite part about all of this, because a lot of these are coming out soon, right? Like within the next 3 months or so, is just going into like LVO and Adepticon and stuff, worlds. I mean, gosh, it's going to be real impossible to plan to know what you're going to see across the table. Like all comers lists are going to have to be more popular or something. Like, I think you could still do like wacky lists that no one sees coming, but they got to be really good now, because there's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff you could be facing, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, I think my all comers list is going to be Din and Boba or Din and IG88. That's going to be my all comers list for those.
So when in thinking about older Boba in my local community Discord, so Ploy works with him really well because you get your standby and also order control.
Yep.
But also, someone suggested Lando might actually have a use, because you could use his 2 pip, so you could play whatever command card, not give Boba an order, and then he would get a standby, and then Lando could use his 2 pip ace in the hole to give Boba an order, or activate him when you want.
Yep.
So because you want order control on Boba, but
generally
that would be 2 ways to get a standby on Boba and then still order control. So
I mean, I will say independent standby, just of all the independent keywords, objectively seems like the best. It's just the context. Old Boba's unit card doesn't really have that strong attacks on it. But like the independent standby kind of gets around one of the primary drawbacks of independent, which is that you don't have control. Like, he gets to do something in response. So this is a super strong keyword in general.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very interested to see the weapon upgrades that Boba will get, because even like some kind, because he has Arsenal too. If you could get any kind of versatile weapon or like a second melee weapon that he could really take advantage of with his standby, because likely you're trying to get him in melee, use a standby in melee, and then like
Yeah.
if you have tenacity on him, well, that's 4 black and a red, or sorry, 4 red and a black, which is already great. But like if you could then also like shoot a pistol out in with versatile, that would just sort of double down on that and make that even more incredible.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, you could even like, I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff with like Din and Boba, like they both have comm slots, so you could give them all kinds of interesting things. Like you fly them both in, and they have comms jammer.
Yeah.
Like, and you just can't. Oh, you can't activate.
Those two together are going to be a nightmare as like a duo. Young Boba specifically, and Din.
Empire versions.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, I think it's kind of hard since we got sort of like half pictures of all this stuff to fully assess how this is going to affect, the competitive environment.
Yeah.
I love the theme on pretty much all of this. And like I said earlier, it all seems much more polished than like the Battle Force wave, which is great. We'll see.
It's interesting.
Other than the rifle.
I listen, I'm more of an optimist, I think, on some of this stuff, and I see how it could be a problem, but I don't know, the way most games play out, it's not like you're going to get as many wounds as you really think you're going to get, right? Like you may get 1 or 2 probably.
And I think people are a little too focused on that part of it. I think for me, the biggest problem is just that it breaks all the rules, and in some ways it does it in ways that are not intuitive to a veteran, much less like a new player. You show up to a local game store with this and you're like, all right, I'm going to shoot you in your closed transport, or I'm going to shoot you in melee, or I just damaged your strike team, you got to remove the model that's hidden. Like the fact that it just breaks all the normal ranged attack rules in ways that are not intuitive, I think it's like if you set aside the balance and how good it's actually going to be to use Din as a sniper, which I think is still, jury's out on that. If you set all that aside, like it just brings up a lot of weird, confusing interactions that I think could have just been avoided by making this a ranged attack with like a new keyword that ignores saves or something. I don't know.
And they could, whatever. Maybe they'll come out with a ruling that clarifies it. I doubt it.
Who knows?
It's going to be complex. You're right. Like, because there's a lot of weird interactions that you're just going to be like, oh, so my sniper that I specifically had behind here and is range 7 or 6 from here right now, you just kill him because you can see the other one. Okay, right. Cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, there's going to be just weird feels bad moments like that for both veterans and new players. And I think probably, that's avoidable if you just use like the building blocks, the keyword building blocks.
Though?
Random freeform text.
You know what? Maybe it's okay. Maybe some of that stuff was too strong and it needed to have something out there that scares it, right? Because how many things really scare snipers? There isn't a ton, right? Like snipers are still one of the better units to bring in the game, and this is kind of a, I'm just taking devil's advocate here, right?
I'm not sure that's true anymore though. If you look at the stats, like Republic is bringing maybe 1 Echo if they're bringing any.
I guess I meant Civil War.
Yeah, I mean droids aren't bringing BX snipers,
right.
Empire's probably bringing a couple, but Rebels are bringing Wookiees a lot. They might bring like 1 or 2 snipers, but
there's really solid special forces options for every faction now.
Yeah, it feels very balanced now. Like it definitely, don't get me wrong, when strike teams first came out, it was dumb. But now I feel like the special forces slot is actually very well balanced against most of the options. A couple things like Rebel Mandalorians excluded.
I guess what I was saying was, so right now, like in my Luke Sabine list, I have 3 snipers. And I think for a lot of people who haven't played as long as we have with snipers, right? like Sniper Reserve feels bad. It's like, wait, I'm sorry, that just what happened? Like that just went through. Okay, Pierce, and so I don't know. Maybe it's okay that there's something that kind of, how fights against it. I don't know.
It'd just be better if it did it in a way that was not so unintuitive and different from every other interaction in the game.
I'm clearly older and wiser than I was when we started this podcast 4 years ago.
You are objectively older than you were 2 hours ago when we started this podcast.
Yep. They call me Old Man Shalansky.
I've got at least one more gray hair up here than when we started.
Oh, dude. Yeah, you and me both, brother.
Yeah, no, this was fun. I'm very excited. I just love bounty hunters as a concept. I played the heck out of Bosk when he first came out. So I'm excited for. I mean, really, the next two waves are just exceptionally bounty hunter heavy, which I think is fine because that's where the media is right now. And I'm gonna enjoy playing them. But yeah, I'm glad that I got my Empire stuff painted up. Let's just say that.
The only thing I'm upset about with all of this is like you can't take more operatives.
No, like I want to take like Din, Boba, and IG-88 all at the same time.
Yeah, and
then somehow have a hand of 10 command cards.
Well, maybe there'll be a battle force for that.
Yeah, maybe. I when Ahsoka comes out, I want to take Din, Grogu, R2, Luke, and Ahsoka.
And nothing else.
Yeah,
it is. I will say, like, clearly you have to find a way to get Din into the game because he's such an iconic and cool character. Yeah. It seems like that way is going to just be generically as part of Rebels, which feels a little thematically weird from a timeline perspective.
This whole Mandalorian wave kind of feels weird, like both like Imperial remnants, right? Like you got Moff Gideon and Dark Troopers who are going to be in Empire, but they weren't like they are Empire, but they're not when we see them. And then like all the like the rebel characters from Mandalorian, it's like Ahsoka. Well, she wasn't really a rebel, but she wasn't. Din, same way, especially Grogu.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
Fulcrum Ahsoka was definitely a rebel.
Yeah,
at least as much as Sabine was,
But yeah, I mean, she's a little bit like Maul was part of the CS, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Definitely supported them. Blah blah blah. Yeah,
well, it's just strange, right? Because we're seeing these dual or quad faction units now, right? But then you have like Callus and Iden, who very much
yes
switch sides.
Iden spent a lot more time, at least in Battlefront, as a rebel.
Than as on the Empire. And so it's just interesting that they're Empire only. And so you look at those going, so are we gonna these guys? So maybe they'll get the mercenary treatment, right? Like Boba and Bosk did, where they can be both. That would be ideal.
Ooh, steady Wookiees, yay.
Please no. I mean, you can already do that with Republic. But
yes.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably fine. The Empire Remnant thing makes more sense to me just because it's like an actual, at least in the Mandalorian show, it's just Mandalorian and his homies fighting against these Empire Remnants. Like there's no, at that point it's the New Republic. There is no Rebel Alliance Remnant. There's no Rebel Alliance anything. It's the New Republic, and they never fight with them. The Empire Remnant is like, you have stormtroopers and EWEB and scout troopers and stuff, but also like, Moff Gideon was an Empire Moff before he was in the Empire Remnant. So it makes total sense in like a what if scenario that during the actual Empire, you would be able to take, like Moff Gideon would be commanding troops. That makes sense. That's what he did before he, 5 years later, commandeered a whatever Empire transport with a bunch of stormtroopers on it. It feels a little more weird with Mando. I think it's fine. It's enough fine, like in a what if scenario, that it's worth putting him in the game for sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's fun. It's
right.
It's Star Wars. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would
Exactly.
say overall, like, though I have questions about things, same with the battle forces. I don't know. I don't feel like anything is like game breaking. I feel like it's strong. Like there's a lot of strong stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't feel like anything is like, oh God, I don't even know how you were going to deal with that. So everything felt it felt good. Some things are bad. That happens, right? Not everything is going to be good,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like everything's so impossibly great that it's
No. What we've seen so far is kind of within the realm of like, this is new, it's hot, it's probably something you want to take, but in a way that's like consistent with previous releases.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
in the Overton window.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing in here that it's like, this is going to break the game.
No.
Which is good. So yeah, I think that they definitely hit the mark on theme. We'll see once we see the rest of it, if they hit the mark on balance. It seems like so far they've mostly done that. So yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, same. That was good. It's yeah, I'm happy. Mandalorian is probably honestly has been one of my favorite Star Wars things.
I agree.
And then the part 3 that was in the middle of Book of Boba Fett, that was also good.
Yeah. Part 2.5. Mandalorian season 2.5. Yeah.
So good.
Yep.
And yeah.
So. All right. Well, you guys got any final thoughts?
I didn't get the Fox News. I guess we'll do that next week.
Yeah, too much to talk about today.
Yeah. Everybody's been asking for it. Next week.
I will eagerly await
Good.
The Fox update. All right. Well, we're the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jay.
I'm Jimbo.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.